Does my lender really need to know that I'm doing a Morby method? Never. I'm going to say that again. Never should your lender ever need to know that you're doing a Morby method. Seller has a house.
Yes.
In what market?
Orlando.
Okay, Orlando. Why do I care about the market? Is because I immediately start thinking about who else can help me.
Yeah.
That probably isn't something you currently need, but for me, it helps me.
Right.
Okay, Orlando, perfect. And your guys' exit strategy is what?
Our exit strategy is going to be buy and hold.
Okay, buy and
Because
hold
the entry
rental.
fee's so low. Yeah. Short term, midterm.
Okay.
Yeah, midterm.
Okay, midterm rental, right? So like
Wrap.
traveling nurse.
Yeah.
Okay, you said wrap?
Uh-huh.
That's not a midterm rental. It's not even remotely close to that. It's not a rental. A wrap is, you're not even the owner anymore.
Okay.
A
Well, whatever
wrap.
that is.
You were there this morning for the wrap Zoom, right?
Yeah.
If I buy something from somebody else and I add my own thing and I sell it to them, I'm the bank. You're the bank. You're not the owner of that property anymore. Okay?
Yeah, that's probably where we're going to go with it.
Okay, so you want to wrap this?
I think so.
Okay, got it.
So hung
These
said
these I think so things are going to make it really hard for when you ask a lender these questions.
it's gonna be really hard.
First and foremost, don't ever ask a lender anything that has anything to do with your exit strategy. All you want to do is you want to buy this thing on the Morby method, which means what's the seller want? What's the purchase price?
370.
370. Okay, cool. 370. Seller will carry how much money?
We have two options. Option one is that seller will carry 40%.
Okay.
Option two is seller will carry 75 to 80%. Basically the lowest I can get on a DSCR.
Okay, you probably won't get 25% on a DSCR. They'll tell you that, but they won't get it for you.
Okay.
They all say they can, but right now the debt situation is pretty gnarly. So I would imagine your seller. What's the difference between the two? Just based on what he can get you?
I guess. I mean,
Okay, cool. So this is one of the most important things in a Morby method. Okay, you have to understand this. So step one in a Morby method is the seller needs to say yes. Okay, no contract. Okay, you then tell the seller in a Morby method, I'm going to go talk to my lenders and my partner, and I'm going to come back and see what kind of loan terms I can get. I just did a whole Zoom about this. You need loan terms. Okay, that comes from him.
Right.
So you don't need to tell him I'm doing a Morby method. You just need to say, hey, I need loan terms for purchasing this property in Orlando. I'm buying it for $370,000.
Sure.
What terms can you get me? What's he going to tell you? He's going to tell you, I can get you $200,000 on a loan, and you need to bring $170,000 to the table plus $5,000 in closing costs. Okay, I don't know what those numbers are. That's why, how are you going to get a contract with the seller if you don't know the loan terms from the lender?
Right.
That's all going to change. Does my lender really need to know that I'm doing a Morby method? Never. I'm going to say that again. Never should your lender ever need to know that you're doing a Morby method. Ever. I'm going to say that a third time. Never should your lender need to know that you are doing a Morby method. It convolutes and overcomplicates everything. Seller says, yes, I'm interested in selling to you at 370. I'm willing to carry a portion of the balance. How much are you thinking, Joe? You go, that's a great question. As long as you're in alignment with this, I'm going to go to my lender and I'm going to see what kind of loan terms I can get based on this property. Once I have that, I'm going to come back to you and we can then negotiate, put everything on paper.
Right.
So right now, you guys are trying to negotiate. You don't have any ammunition to go to battle.
So how do we know the loan yet?
Right? So you're sitting here going, I don't know what to do, and hey, my lender, will you help me? Hey, lender, I want to buy this house cash, not Morby method. You will do Morby method, okay? But the thing that people don't understand about the Morby method is there's a very clean line here. This is called escrow being closed. Okay? What you're trying to do with the DSCR loan is you're trying to purchase a property, close escrow, transaction's done. Okay, so let's just imagine that all you're doing here is you're going to buy this property cash for the seller.
Right.
Seller says, I'll sell it to you for 370. Sounds like that's the number he wants.
Yep.
Right, cool.
Might be 360, 370.
Okay, cool. Let's be real
360. Say
360. Okay, so I don't know what the loan terms are, but he's going to tell you that after a couple of days. You're going to go back to your seller. You're going to say, hey, it looks like I'm going to be able to get $200,000 from my lender. That means I got to bring $165,000 from a partner or a private money lender. When would you like to close escrow on this deal? Seller goes, wow, really? That fast? Yep. I got my loan terms as long as you're good with all of this. I'm gonna need you to seller finance a portion of that money back to me at a later date. But don't worry about that. All I wanna do is buy the house cash right now. That's all we're gonna do. Okay, forget about the Morby method. Okay, at some point, you're gonna seller finance a portion of this, but forget about all of that. The problem is people take the Morby method, which is actually a second transaction in a silo, and they mix them together thinking it's the same transaction. It is not the same transaction, okay? So, where am I gonna get this money? Hypothetically, let's talk about this. Let's say he gives you only 200,000. Where are you gonna get that 165?
That would be the 40% the seller would carry, right? Where would we get it from?
This is what you don't understand with the Morby method. You haven't watched any of my Morby method videos. Otherwise, you would understand this. Because you got to buy this cash first. Let me say that again. You have to buy this cash first in a first transaction.
Yep.
You close escrow. All the money's been dispersed. This money has to come from somewhere. Why?
Gap lender.
Okay, gap lender, right? Gator. This is why gator lenders are so important.
Right.
Okay,
I
or
remember
a
that.
private money lender.
Right.
Or in your situation, if you are still working your job, which we talked about, you could then loan money to your partnership for a day or two, and
Right.
then you could get that money back. You don't need a private money lender.
Well, and so that's what we were thinking how to do.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
But you need this money. Why? Because your lender, the DSCR lender, will not let you close out a loan with them without seeing the other portion of the money come from somewhere.
Right.
You are satisfying the DSCR lender
By showing.
by showing them we're going to close the transaction. So do I need to tell the DSCR lender I'm going to do any creative finance at all with this? No. Never, 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 ever, ever, never, never. I'm buying this house cash for $360. What loan terms will you give me? Lender says I'll give you $200,000 at 6% interest, 30 years. You go, cool. I'll bring the other $165,000. They don't really care where that money comes from in a DSCR thing, usually a partnership or maybe your own cash or a private money lender, okay? This is where gator lending becomes cool, is that you can borrow that money for a day. Okay, so you get the loan terms, we're good there. Third thing is, we're gonna get a contract. Okay, contract says I'm buying this house for $370,000, I'm closing escrow on, let's say, December 31st. Done. That's a cash transaction. That's all, the only thing that you need to worry about at this point.
Done.
Done, we're good, okay? So here's what happens. 4, close escrow. Okay, this transaction's done. Here's what ends up happening in this transaction. Okay, we good? There's a clean line, you own this property, okay? Here's what ends up happening. Here's the title company. The money comes in, right? $200,000 from your DSCR lender and $165,000 from your private money lender, whatever. $365,000. Why? Because $5,000 for closing costs, right? So what's going to happen is the title company is going to disperse money and things to people, okay? The first person that's going to get something dispersed to them is called the lender. Lender is going to get a DSCR note. They've now created a note with you. They give you the 200 grand, and what they get in return is a note. So they've walked away from the transaction with a note. Okay, and that note is the 30-year note, right? That's what they got in return for it. How does the lender make money?
Interest.
Interest, right? Or sometimes they'll sell that note and make a fee. Cool. Seller walks away with $360,000 in cash.
Check. Yeah.
Cool. You walk away with maybe a financial partner. I'll call it an FP. Maybe a financial partner, right? And I told you guys this in your partnership. Anytime one partner is lending money to the partnership, always treat that money as a separate entity. Okay. So here's your company, here's your financial partner, and then what you guys are walking away with right here is a note. Because remember, you guys have a note between the two of each other, and you also have a deed. You now own the property. Everybody walks away from the transaction, it's completely done, dead, gone, okay? So a Morby method, that's a cash transaction. We all agree, this is how you buy houses cash, DSCR, right? Cool, done. I'm hitting this point hard, really, really hard, because people get really confused and they think the Morby method has anything to do with the upfront acquisition. It doesn't. Okay? So you go down the road and your financial partner says, don't get hung up on the 6 months. I'm just going to give you this as an example. This financial partner says, hey, I'm willing to be in this deal for 6 months where I have this $160,000 tied up, and at some point in the next 6 months, I need you to pay me off. This financial partner says, hey, I want my money back in 6 months.
Okay.
Cool? That's a problem. Okay, but where are you gonna get that money from? Where's an obvious source where you can get that money from? The seller.
Right.
The seller received $360,000, so whether it's 6 months down the road, right? Let's say it's 6 months down the road. Does the lender need to know about any of this stuff?
No.
Okay,
As far as the lender knows, we're paying them off every month.
cool.
They're happy.
Right, so the $360,000, I call the seller up. Hi, this is a fake story. Call the seller up, I go, hey, you know the house I bought from you months and months and months ago? They go, yeah, how's it going? I go, yeah, it's going pretty good, but I got a financial partner that wants me to pay off, and I'm wondering, out of that $360,000, if you'd be willing to give me some of it, and essentially be my private money lender on the deal that you sold me.
Right.
And the seller goes, yeah, what do you need? I go, well, I need this 165 plus his, let's say, $10,000 return that he probably would want. So would you kick back $175,000 to me? And your seller goes, yeah, no problem. I'll do that all day long. So he then gives you the money, and what do?
Right.
We now wipe out your original partner,
The note's gone too.
and you create, the first note is with this lender, it's always there, right? And the second note is then created between you and the seller, and you still have the deed. So now you replaced your partner with a note between you and the seller.
Got it.
Okay, does this make sense?
Yes.
100%.
Absolutely.
Okay, 100%. Do I need to do it at 6 months? Do I need to wait 6 months? Or could I literally
Do it right away.
wait
Right.
6 minutes?
Exactly.
Okay, so that's what the Morby Method is.
It's just taking that timeline and shortening it.
It's just shortening it to the next day.
So what incentivization do you offer to the seller to actually make that happen? Why don't they want to just keep the 360 cash until you do?
This is where I'm reluctant to teach anybody anything. I gave you this example of the 6 months to separate in your mind that these are so far away from each other transactions that they're not even remotely close to each other. Just because they happen next to each other one day after another doesn't mean they're the same transaction. What people do is they go, oh, what you didn't realize, neither one of you realized, is that it's a cash transaction. We close escrow.
Right.
There's a private money lender that needs to satisfy the DSCR loan. So we hammered that, coffin, nail, done. You understand that? Okay, cool. The way that you've incentivized your sellers, you've told the seller up front, hey, will you seller finance this house to me?
Okay.
I just had to compartmentalize this because you guys were not understanding it. You're mixing everything all together.
Right.
You needed to extract them away from each other.
Mhm.
Hey seller, would you sell this house to us for $360? Yeah, I would. Great. Here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna ask you for seller finance. Okay, no problem. What does that look like? Well, I don't know yet. Let me go talk to my DSCR lender.
Mhm.
Remember I gave you the list.
Mhm.
I'll come back and I'll let you know those loan terms. Seller, you come back to the seller and go, okay, here's what's gonna happen. My DSCR lender is gonna give me 200.
Mhm.
I'm gonna come in with 165. I would love for you to reimburse me that 165 the day after we close escrow.
You've brought it up from the beginning. It's not an ask.
I
It's
mean, you guys not had this conversation with the seller? And there you go. You don't need to ask me that. You've already done
You
it.
got 0%.
Are we talking? Are we in the freaking Matrix? Like what?
we're in the same room.
You've already had the conversation with the seller.
Yeah, you're right. I'm thinking of the what ifs in a bad sense.
Yeah, you would always this. Remember, I said this is a fake story. It's never happened.
Mhm.
The only reason I did this 6 month time frame and I acted as if the seller didn't know you were going to ask him for the money back
Mhm.
is to show you that there's a pure disconnect between the two transactions.
Yeah.
Of course, you're going to tell the seller up front.
You're right.
This
Makes
doesn't
perfect sense.
exist.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Right? It's just so people go, oh yeah, I guess you could do that because that's where the money comes from. What people are like, well, where does the money come from? The seller received $360. What do you mean where the money came from? You got $200,000 from the lender. The lender walks away with the note. This seller walks away with, I got my $360, but he already told you up front, I'd be willing to sell it kick back 40%.
Yep.
Where you negotiate that final percentage, right, is all based on what?
With the DSCR loan, in this case, Austin.
Right, so
tells
you don't, the only thing you say to Austin is you go, what loan terms can you get me? I'm buying this house cash.
So would you say something like, hey, we could do 40%, we could do 20%.
Yeah,
And I could say, give me the best you got, like whatever is gonna be the best.
For him?
terms. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of it's gonna be contingent upon that seller, right? So you go to the seller and go, hey, look, I'm gonna get 3 or 4 different options from my lender. when I get those 3 or 4 different options from my lender, I'm gonna come back to you and we're gonna work out what's best for both parties.
That is how I set it up, even though I didn't know what the heck I was doing.
Yeah, you
So-
did it right.
Okay.
So again, are we doing it 6 months after each other?
No, we're doing 6 minutes.
We're doing 6 minutes. It's 2 different transactions.
Yeah.
The seller actually never receives the 360,000. Here's what happens, okay? This is the part that people don't understand. The title company has the money, we close escrow, in a normal cash transaction, everybody would receive their money.
Right.
Here's what actually happens. Is that first transaction truly does close escrow. Everything I told you really does close escrow. It's recorded, the seller in an escrow account. Okay, instead of the seller receiving the 360 to their name, the title company has a second leg of the transaction. You've never even heard some of these words before. Okay, they have an escrow account where all this stuff is coming in, the 200 grand and the 165 goes into an escrow account. It's literally an account with an escrow name on it. Could be Synergy 123 escrow account. Literally, that's what they look like. The 365 sits in there in that first transaction. The DSCR lender wants to see that money disperse and leave that account. Okay, so where does that money leave if it doesn't go to the seller? It goes to a secondary escrow account, so it leaves the first transaction's bank account, goes to the second transaction's bank account at the same title company. So it's showing the DSCR lender that the money dispersed from that account, seller's been paid, everybody's good.
Box is checked.
So does that seller actually ever receive that 360? No, the seller receives whatever the amount of money they need to receive
They
out of the
agree to seller
transaction,
finance us.
minus what their seller finances.
In this case, 200.
The title company actually takes that second escrow account and disperses, let's say, 191,000 blah 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 amount to the seller, and the seller walks out with 191. You guys walk away with all the money to pay off your private money lender, plus maybe a couple of Morby Method deals we do is I take enough out of the seller side that pays for my renovation, and I can pay myself up front even out of that. You can pay yourself up front on a Morby Method. Like Logan Manzanares, his first Morby Method deal he ever did, he's like, dude, I put the whole thing together, renovations got paid for, and I got $7,000 that I paid my bills with in the Morby Method. You're essentially just, the seller doesn't receive it, it goes into a second escrow account. Transaction we talked about is all the way complete. DSCR lender's gone, they don't know anything's happening, blah, 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 blah. That money, the next day, the title company, Bobby Joe, she goes, okay, cool, let's create the second note and deed of trust and disperse the money according to the way that the agreement was set up. It's simple when you really understand it. The thing that I get frustrated, I'm like, guys, it's 2 separate transactions, it's not the same transaction. You're buying a house cash, closing escrow, the next day you go, hey, I know you just got 360 grand, can I just get some of that back and you seller finance it to me? Does that make sense? Yep.